Let's talk about Tilray. Are they even a cannabis company anymore? I came to think about this company once again, walking down the streets here in Phuket, seeing that there were just about as many cannabis shops as there was massage parlors. So this just gives an indication on the future growth potential of this whole industry with massive expansion opportunities. However, when we look at the sector, Tilray stands out as an example due to a lot of recent acquisitions on beer brands they bought in the past when I covered this company more closely, and recently they also bought some brands from Anheuser-Busch. So with that in mind, are they even a cannabis company anymore? Just looking at the recent presentations here, we can see that they have Hexo acquisition and then the recent August 2023 investor presentation. And in this presentation you will find something quite interesting. It's mostly about beverages and not a single link to cannabis. And if you're looking for a pure play, well, then this should be worrying. Let's take a look at the presentation and then we can take a quick look at some of the growth of the company and talk about how this company now is quite hard to analyze in terms of growth potential in the cannabis sector. So talking about Tilray brands and their diversified portfolio, let's just take a look at page 4 straight away. In the beginning here we see, of course, talks about medical cannabis, the Broken Coast, Symbiose, Afria, Tilray. Remember, this was the reversed merger here between these two a long time ago. And then of course adult use cannabis, and then beverage, alcohol, wellness and distribution. But as we go further down this presentation, we will see most of the talks are about beverage and alcohol and growing this industry, and very little is linked to infusing THC or doing something like this, trying to get that into the distribution and actually sell cannabis. So just next page, boom, all the beverages that they have. And then in terms of strategy, we see this establishing leader in craft brewing, distribution nationally, facilities, synergies, etc. Although this synergy part makes me a bit worried again. Remember the Afria and Tilray merger? We waited for synergies that frankly never happened. They were not able to cut costs at a satisfying level. That was one of the reasons that I dumped this stock months ago. And once again, talking about synergies, they don't have a good proven track record in this case. So in terms of mission, alright, scale, build out this whole brewer structure, a lot of focus on this brewing part. And once again, is this taking away all the focus from the cannabis industry, cultivating it, developing the brands, trying to get distribution to be good, and more big bets here, all related to the draft beer industry. So flavor forward spirits, alternative pack sizes, taproom activity, sampling and trial, e-commerce here for alcohol as well, with growing this, and the convenience channels. So they could at least mention that, alright, the reason that we're doing this, using convenience channels, growing out, is so that once we have these sales channels in place, we're going to use the same sales channels for cannabis. Although this is not even guaranteed due to all the regulations surrounding it. Maybe they need to sell it from a special type of shop or something like this. And it could be years and years and years away. So just because they're developing sales infrastructure for brewing and selling alcoholic beverages does not mean that they can use the same sales structure in terms of, the commerce, the point of sales for cannabis as well. One thing's for certain though, logistics will be able to be used in both cases, and if they have a good logistics network. However, this does not justify such a big bet on continuing to build out this capacity for brewing and this big bet on beer. So once again, look at this, comparing themselves to traditional brewing companies, Yuling, Boston Beer, all of these American brewing companies. Very worrying. They should not be looking at this as competition. They should be looking at other cannabis companies. So a lot of focus here once again, and Tilray's beer geographical presence. And then future state, just regional and the product mix, and I don't think that this slide tells me a lot. Retail chain independence split, right? Purchase portfolio, Tilray, combined total. We know that they focus a lot on acquisition and that they're buying a lot of companies using the cash that they have available for these purchases, and later in the video we'll see how this really can make it difficult to analyze revenue and trying to understand where are the sales actually coming from. So just doing that makes it an apple and pears comparison to other cannabis companies. We can actually look at that right now before we scroll down the last on the presentation. So we see in terms of revenue year over year, comparing the quarters here, August 2022 we saw a dip, and then we saw a dip again, and a dip again, and now recently we saw an increase. How much of this increase is due to them selling just more beer and not more cannabis, and how much is cannabis related? It's hard to tell, it's hard to analyze, but we also see negative profit margin. We're seeing the company still bleeding cash, and this will mean that they will need to secure funding somehow, and this will mean, likely in my opinion, dilution of shares, or they will need to take on additional debt. But in terms of this presentation, as you can see, a lot of focus on craft brands. Once again, more about beers, and even more about beers as we scroll down this presentation. And now the internet here in Thailand is lagging a bit, but as you can see, highball energy as well. And then that's the end of the presentation. A lot of focus on beers and breweries. It's understandable due to the recent acquisition of the Anheuser-Busch brands, but it also worries me as a potential investor. I always look at this sector. It's an interesting sector with large growth opportunities, but just taking in all of these beer brands without the benefit being clear to me as a potential investor, I think that's worrying. I think that's not a move I want to see from Tilray, and I think it's a better opportunity to look at competitors. So if you have a favorite cannabis company that you would like me to take a closer look at, take a look at the revenue, try to understand the brands that they're creating and trying to see how they differentiate and where there could be potential for it to find a good match and how they maybe could market it. We've seen X, as they're called now, talking about making cannabis advertising legal. So that's quite an interesting opportunity for brand building indeed. So there's a lot to talk about in the sector if there's interest regarding it. Alright, that's been it for this video, and as always, hope you guys make a ton of money, whatever investments you decide to make. Take care now, bye bye.